Good afternoon and welcome to our press conference on the EU Competitiveness Compass. It's an important day as we have the pleasure of having with us today President von der Leyen and Executive Vice President Séjourné. Without further ado, I give the floor to President von der Leyen, please.
Yes, thank you very much and good afternoon to all of you. Indeed, we had today in the college the Competitiveness Compass. And I want to start by emphasizing the strength of the European Union. We have a very strong manufacturing and industrial base. We have a highly trained and well-educated workforce, if not the most educated workforce in the world. We have a continent-sized single market. We have the second largest economy and we are the biggest trading sector in the world. We have a stable and predictable legal environment. And very interestingly, we have a longer life expectancy and lower inequalities than all our global competitors. But at the same time, Europe is also held back by weaknesses. And if you take it in a nutshell, over the last 20 to 25 years, our business model has basically relied on cheap labor from China, presumably cheap energy from Russia, and partially outsourcing security and security investment. These days are gone. And we see that today Europe continues to lag behind the United States and China in productivity growth. And we must fix our weaknesses to regain competitiveness. This is why in preparation during my last term, at the end of my last term, in preparation of a potential second term, I asked Mario Draghi to write his report on the competitiveness of the European Union. The report is exactly what we needed. It's a very clear-eyed assessment with a set of excellent recommendations. And the Competitiveness Compass we agreed on today in the college is basically the translation of the Draghi report and input from the Letta report into a communication of the Commission. So basically also describes where we're going to go in the years to come. The Competitiveness Compass focuses on 3 pillars. The first one is closing the innovation gap. The second is a joint roadmap for decarbonisation and competitiveness. And the third one is reducing our dependencies and increasing our resilience and our economic security. And then these are the 3 pillars. They are horizontal, cross-cutting enablers that are very important for our competitiveness. It's simplification. It's lowering the barriers to the single market that is our biggest asset in a world of giants. It is about financing the competitiveness. It is about skills and quality jobs and coordination, coordination, coordination. So let me have a brief look at the first pillar, driving our productivity through innovation. Europe's industrial structure has become too static, with too few startups emerging with new disruptive technologies. So we need to reignite Europe's innovation engine. If you look at research and the talents in Europe, that's impressive because the European global share on patent application is on par with the United States and China. But only 1/3 of these patent applications then finally are commercially exploited, and that makes the difference. And we see that only a small share of EU businesses are seizing the opportunity of the digital change. If you look at our companies, only 13% are using AI, so 1 in 7 is using AI, for example, and all this must change. This year we will therefore launch a broad AI strategy for our continent. It will include an Apply AI initiative to drive industrial adoption of artificial intelligence in key sectors. The strategy will also include that we have so-called AI factories, an AI factories initiative, which basically offers to our companies the possibility with supercomputers to train their models and to develop their models. And the same, after looking at AI, we will do in different action plans, for example, concerning advanced materials, quantum, biotech, robotics, space technologies. These are all components of the markets of the future. Then there's a second element. This is important for our innovation and the possibility for our startups to scale up. In our startup and scale-up strategy, we will address the obstacles in the single market that prevent our innovative companies to scale up through the European single market. And we will improve the access to capital. Let me first have a look at the single market. We see today that our innovative companies, if they want to scale up, they're basically confronted with 27 different fragmented requirements in the single market. And therefore, we will offer them the possibility of a so-called 28th regime. That is, we say, voluntarily, you can opt in a 28th regime that is one simple and single set of rules across the whole European Union. The second element that is crucial for our startups to scale up is the access to venture capital. I want to give you some figures. If you look at the global venture capital, only 5% is raised in the European Union, 52% is raised in the United States, and 40% is even raised in China. We do not lack capital. If you look at the European household savings, it is 1.4 trillion per year, compared to only 800 billion in the United States. What we lack is an efficient capital market that turns these savings into the investment and the venture capital that is so much needed, particularly for early-stage technologies that have a game-changing potential. This is why we will, building on the Capital Market Union and the Banking Union, we will present a European Savings and Investment Union this year. It will create new savings and investment products, provide incentives for risk capital, and ensure investment flows seamlessly across the European Union. Of course, this is private capital. Public investment also will continue to play an important role if we speak about investment in innovation. And therefore, the next European budget is our chance to refocus the priorities and, of course, also to simplify the access to European funding. Let us have a look at the second pillar in the compass, the joint plan for decarbonisation and competitiveness. The transition to a net zero economy is essential for prosperity. I want to be very clear. The European Union stays on course for the Green Deal objectives, without any question. This is a unique strength we have. And we must provide predictability for clean tech investors and companies. Clean tech industry is looking for opportunities. Europe is open to business. We are already world leaders in clean technologies. If you look at the wind turbines, the electrolyzers, the low-carbon fuels. More than 1/5 of the world's clean technologies are developed right here in Europe. So we have to work hard that we stay number one. And therefore, first movers will be rewarded with investment certainty, with preference in public procurement, and simplified state aid in targeted sectors. We will also, of course, work with the more traditional industries to be supported in the transition. Actually, I will launch tomorrow the strategic dialogue in the automotive industry. We will support this automotive industry through also the deep transition they are undergoing, and we will ensure that the future of cars remains firmly rooted in Europe. We will also roll out tailored action plans for energy-intensive sector, just to speak about steel and metals or chemicals. We will work on the acceleration of permitting. You know this is a constant complaint, rightly so. And very important, we have to address structurally too high energy prices and energy costs in the European Union. You all know the story. We had already structurally high energy prices before Russia's war in Ukraine started. Then Putin cut us off the gas supplies. We were heavily dependent on Russian gas supplies. We had skyrocketing prices for energy over a certain time, tenfold partially. But now we're back to pre-war prices. Still, these prices are too high. And therefore, we will come in a few weeks with the Affordable Energy Action Plan to work on the structural issues to lower the energy prices for our industry. Now, the third pillar in the compass is about strengthening our resilience and economic security. Europe is a champion in trade. We have agreements with 76 countries. We are the largest trading partner for 72 of them, representing 38% of the world's GDP. And interestingly, in these times, there's a growing appetite to engage more closely with us, not only because our market is attractive and is big, but also because of our reputation as a partner. In Europe's offers, there are no hidden strings attached. Others may focus on exploiting and extracting. We look at investing locally, where the critical raw materials of our partners are, in producing a value chain there and taking the finished products to the European Union. So everyone wins. With this in mind, we have launched a new generation of trade deals to secure supplies of raw materials, clean energy and clean tech from around the world. Let me now finish with a view on two horizontal enablers. The first one is simplification. We have a very clear signal from the European business sector that there is too much complexity and the duration of permitting is too long. The administrative procedures are too cumbersome. We have to cut red tape. We will deliver an unprecedented simplification effort. We will start with the first simplification omnibus proposal next month. This includes a far-reaching simplification in the fields of sustainable finance reporting, sustainability due diligence and taxonomy. Other omnibuses for different sectors will follow. This will be another major step in delivering on our target to reducing EU reporting obligations by 25% for all companies and, as you know, by 35% for SMEs. And we want to go further because reporting is not the only obstacle that is there. There are other types of administrative costs imposed on our industry. So we are expanding the commitment to cover 25% of all these recurring administrative burdens and 35% for SMEs. Our goal is that by the end of the mandate, we will have made proposals that could save companies over 37 billion euros a year. Finally, the issues of skill is absolutely central. We have excellent figures, 75% of employment, 6% only of unemployment. But hidden behind it is not only a successful labour market policy, but it is already the lack of labour and skilled labour. So we will deliver a union for skills this year to reskill and upskill Europe's workforce in a world of a fast technology change where this is absolutely needed to have a success in our competitiveness. This was a glimpse at the width and the depth of the Competitiveness Compass. I want to be very clear. We have a plan. We have a roadmap. We have the political will. Now what matters, and really matters, is speed and unity. Speed because the world is not waiting for us. So it's high time that we accelerate. And unity is important to really implement this political will. Very good is the fact that the European Council endorses strongly the Draghi report. We had a debate in Budapest, and the Budapest Declaration is very clear, full endorsement of the 27 leaders of the way forward. Here's now the translation with the Competitiveness Compass. And with that, I want to give the floor to you, Stefan, for presenting the part that we have agreed on today.
Merci beaucoup Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs. Comme vous l'avez compris dans les propos de la Présidente, la Commission présente aujourd'hui sa doctrine économique pour les 5 prochaines années. Celle-ci est simple et tient en 3 mots d'ordre assez simples: compétitivité, compétitivité et compétitivité. Cette conviction découle d'une feuille de route qui consiste à simplifier, à investir, et également à accélérer nos priorités économiques. Et aujourd'hui, l'Europe, comme l'a rappelé la Présidente, a un plan, c'est un business plan que nous avons construit avec l'ensemble du collège des commissaires. Je voudrais d'ailleurs saluer l'ensemble des commissaires qui ont travaillé sur ce document de référence qui est largement partagé aujourd'hui dans les discussions que nous avons pu avoir ce matin. L'idée est donc de placer la compétitivité dans chaque euro que nous investirons, dans chaque initiative que nous proposerons, tout en défendant également notre modèle européen et ses particularités également. Le premier point que je voulais vous signaler, c'est d'abord la simplification. Et nous allons évidemment simplifier. Dans l'esprit, c'est un choc de simplification que j'ai déjà pu évoquer dans notre industrie. Je veux parler également de l'ensemble des points qui seront évoqués dans l'ensemble des autres textes éventuellement qui participeront à cet acte de simplification. Mais d'abord, pourquoi un choc de simplification? D'abord parce que on s'intéresse à l'ensemble de la régulation européenne, pas seulement aux textes plus récents. Ensuite, parce qu'on s'intéresse à de très nombreux aspects, à la quantité et à la fréquence du reporting, à la taille également des entreprises qui seront concernées, aux procédures administratives, à la cohérence entre tous les textes, entre eux, pour donner de la cohérence et de la lisibilité dans les objectifs que nous nous sommes fixés, et à la possibilité de passer de manière massive au format numérique. Nous présenterons donc ce premier texte omnibus dans les prochaines semaines, comme l'a indiqué la Présidente. Fin 2025, début 2026. Présenterons également ce 28e régime que détaillait la Présidente, qui réalisera ce que des milliers d'entreprises nous demandent et nous réclament maintenant: un seul régime unique, un seul formulaire à remplir au lieu de 27. C'est une révolution également. Il faudra convaincre également, puisque les leaders sont d'accord sur ce principe-là. Il faudra aller au niveau politique pour pouvoir défendre cette réalité et ce projet du 28e régime. De manière générale, la conviction de cette commission est que l'intégration du marché unique est un formidable potentiel de simplification. Une norme européenne peut remplacer 27 autres normes. C'est le principe du fameux one in, 27 out, que nous avons également défendu ce matin au collège. Deuxièmement, investir. Nous allons investir. L'Europe doit drastiquement augmenter les financements et les liquidités de nos créateurs. Je parle là d'innovation, de nos industries. Je parle là également de production, ont besoin. Sur ce dernier point, les capitaux privés sont d'autant de leviers et nous proposerons la création de nouveaux produits d'épargne européens et de législation propice à l'investissement. Du côté de la puissance publique européenne, nous créerons un fonds de compétitivité lors du prochain budget pluriannuel. Ça avait été déjà annoncé dans les lettres de mission, mais maintenant validé. Ce travail a déjà commencé et ce fonds doit permettre à chaque euro d'argent public de libérer davantage d'investissements privés dans l'économie réelle. Par ailleurs, si on additionne la part des budgets que les États membres investissent dans la compétitivité et celle du budget européen, nous avons déjà une très grande force de frappe dans l'économie. Mais c'est vrai qu'en ordre dispersé, aujourd'hui, nous perdons énormément en efficacité. C'est pourquoi, en plus de l'apport de nouveaux financements, la boussole propose aussi un outil de coordination des politiques publiques et des politiques de compétitivité qui doit permettre d'aligner nos efforts au niveau européen, notamment en matière d'innovation, et nous devons pouvoir tirer dans le même sens et miser sur les mêmes secteurs stratégiques. L'ensemble des États membres et des gouvernements et la Commission européenne il y a un alignement pour la première fois de tous les États membres qui ont réclamé l'application du rapport Draghi, qui a très fortement, comme l'a dit la présidente, inspiré la création de cette boussole. Et j'y vois là une possibilité pour nous, pour la première fois, d'avoir vrai alignement sur la stratégie industrielle, économique et de compétitivité européenne, puisque ces rapports, l'État et Draghi, ont fait le consensus, en tout cas dans les discussions au Conseil et aussi au Parlement européen chez les colégislateurs. Dans le même esprit, nous voulons coordonner les stratégies et les investissements en matière de matières premières, par exemple par l'achat groupé au niveau européen, comme nous l'avons fait avec succès avec les vaccins et sur le gaz lors de la crise énergétique. C'est un point qu'on étudiera également. Troisième et dernier point que je voulais vous soulever, on accélère. Cet effort systémique s'accompagne d'un plan et de plans sectoriels. Le principe est simple, décupler les efforts sur les secteurs stratégiques, les secteurs traditionnels bien sûr, sur lesquels reposent des pans entiers de notre économie. Je pense à l'industrie de la chimie, à l'acier, à l'automobile, dont un dialogue stratégique a été voulu par la présidente. Ces secteurs sont d'une importance socio-économique cruciale dans nos territoires et ce sont les piliers de la résilience de notre industrie et de notre transition vers des technologies propres. Et donc c'est pourquoi ces secteurs auront un plan en 2025. Notre compétitivité dépend aussi de notre capacité à faire émerger et à faire grandir des secteurs d'avenir pour l'Europe. Je veux parler des clean tech, de la biotech européenne, de l'intelligence artificielle, entre autres. Eux aussi auront un plan pour 2025 avec des particularités dans ces secteurs qu'il faudra prendre en compte. Évidemment, l'ensemble de la compétitivité européenne est défini dans cette boussole puisque la stratégie horizontale, comme vous l'avez évoqué la présidente, est bien prise en compte, mais certaines verticales nécessitent plus spécifiquement un plan stratégique pour ces secteurs. L'idée n'est évidemment pas de créer de nouvelles normes, et je tiens à insister là-dessus, ni de corseter l'innovation. Au contraire, il s'agit plutôt de business act que nous allons créer avec l'ensemble des commissaires qui accompagneront les secteurs dans leurs besoins de transition et de croissance. Et à l'heure où certains reviennent sur leurs engagements, l'Europe peut et doit devenir aussi le continent des technologies de pointe. Nous avons dans tous ces domaines les meilleurs scientifiques, les meilleurs créateurs innovants, des employés très qualifiés et donc tout le monde d'ailleurs souhaite faire venir sur son continent. Et à nous également de créer les conditions de l'attractivité pour garder ces talents en Europe. La rencontre de ces deux ambitions, à la fois l'industrie historique qui nécessite de l'aide et puis également l'industrie d'avenir que nous allons aider, sert notamment à développer l'ensemble des technologies propres et donc ce sera l'objet du Clean Industrial Deal que nous présenterons également avec ma collègue Ribera et le commissaire Hoekstra dans les prochaines semaines. Voilà pour ce tour d'horizon, Madame la Présidente, de cette boussole. Quelques derniers mots peut-être avant de laisser les journalistes nous poser des questions. Cette initiative est un changement d'état d'esprit pour l'Europe et les Européens, pas que pour la Commission, et nous gardons notre objectif, celui de créer un modèle européen décarboné, social et respectueux de nos valeurs. Je pense que les deux sont possibles avec de la compétitivité et ce cap doit nous permettre un sursaut de succès économique. Et en un mot, je voudrais quand même évoquer un certain nombre d'ambitions que nous avons, à la fois d'ouvrir plus d'usines que d'enfermer, de produire davantage en Europe avec le Made in Europe, d'augmenter l'emploi en Europe, d'augmenter le nombre de licornes. Ce sont des objectifs que nous partageons et qui sont accessibles aux Européens avec un marché de 450 millions de consommateurs qui est encore fracturé sur un certain nombre de secteurs et qui nous donne du potentiel économique assez important. Voilà, Madame la Présidente, pour ces quelques mots du côté de mon portefeuille. Et évidemment, je suis à votre disposition pour répondre à toutes les questions.
Merci Madame la Présidente, merci vice-président exécutif. So we are now opening the floor for questions. As you know, there will be a technical briefing which will follow this press conference, so keep your more technical questions for the technical briefing. But we can start now, and I will start here on my left. Francesca, please.
Francesca Basso, Corriere della Sera. Madam President, you have just mentioned the innovation gap between the EU and the US and, of course, China as one of the relevant factors for European competitiveness. The Compass intends to address these issues, you said. You said also that the EU has a plan, has a roadmap and the political will. But the US goes very fast, and a few days ago, President Trump just announced a $500 billion project, the Stargate project. So how does the EU intend to respond in order not to be left behind?
Yeah, if you look at the announcement, you see, first of all, there is a race going on about AI leadership without any question. And what is this race all about? It is mostly about the infrastructure that you need, so the computing power, the capacities that have to be there, and the talent. Of course, access to capital too. And for the capacity, supercomputer power capacity that is necessary, for us it's important that we offer these AI factories and AI gigafactories. So we are giving to the startups, but also to the companies, the possibility to develop their models on these supercomputer computing capacities, or to train their models on that. So this is the possibility to compensate for infrastructure, and we will invest heavily. We've done that before in the AI factories. We will continue to invest heavily in the gigafactories. The second element is talent. We have the talent. I just mentioned the figures that is there. What is missing is the access to the single market, then with the product and the access to capital. We see today that this week is certainly a cautionary tale also, that money is not everything. That we've seen these days too. But of course the access to capital is crucial in the European Union, and therefore the proposal of the Savings and Investment Union to give our talents not only the access to the supercomputers, but also the access to the capital that is needed.
Thank you. And I go to the middle. Anna, please.
Yes, now it's working. Ana Marques Neves with the Portuguese news agency Lusa. I have a couple of questions for the President. I'm here, exactly. Madam President, this strategy foresees a fund, so I'd like to know if you can explain more about the dimension of this fund and whether during the MFF negotiations you will support the idea of having, for instance, new resources or a new debt issuance. And also, what's the role of the Portuguese Commissioner Albuquerque on this strategy? And I have another question, if I may, about state aid. Given the differences between the US and the EU, what do you want to do about this matter? Because I think that, for instance, some countries like Portugal don't have the same fiscal capacity that others do have. So I wonder what is your view about the new state aid rules? Thank you so much.
So we will improve the state aid rules in a way that state aid is not too much only looking at the level playing field within the European Union, but also looking at a level playing field globally, because the market, as we just discuss all the time here, the market is the global market we are competing with, and therefore the state aid has to be faster, it has to be more flexible, and it has to take into account the global dimension. The Portuguese Commissioner Maria Luís Albuquerque is the main actor on a big topic of the Competitiveness Compass, and this is the Savings and Investment Union. Of course, also to develop a deep and liquid capital market. With her experience, she is the perfect person for that task. You're asking on new resources. You know that there's a proposal of the Commission on the table for new resources. And it's the old story. If we have common European projects with common European funding, there are two possibilities to create this funding, either more national contributions or new own resources for the Commission. Therefore, our proposal is on the table. What the Competitiveness Fund is concerned, here, the next MFF, we see in this MFF that we have too many different programs, sometimes overlapping, sometimes contradicting even, hard to access, very complicated to access. For companies, it's hard to differentiate which is the right fund that we have to look into. And all our work now on improving the competitiveness showed us that we really have to focus more on breakthrough innovation and breakthrough technologies. And therefore, the next MFF aims at focusing more, of streamlining more, so that the impact of the money invested is a higher one. And this will be the Competitiveness Fund we are working on. I always want to emphasize this is public money. The Compass and also, of course, the Draghi report speaks about, rightly so, private and public money. We have to do our job on the public side, but all the work on the Capital Market Union is also a work to unleash the private capital. And we have, just to give you a figure, if we had a deep and liquid capital market today, figures of the ECB show we would have 470 billion euros more of investment today. So this shows the power of a deep and liquid capital market. It shows how much of European funding is going abroad, this leakage of funding. We have savings of 300 billion that leave the European Union and go somewhere else. All this should be attracted by the Savings and Investment Union, and therefore it's private capital and public capital or public funding that we need for these investments.
Thank you.
Si tu veux dire quelque chose.
Would you like to add?
Non, peut-être ajouter la dimension de la flexibilité qui sera très importante. On a beaucoup parlé du rapport Mimisto, également sur la préparation des crises, mais aussi notre capacité à pouvoir réagir à des tensions géopolitiques, à notre capacité à pouvoir intervenir dans l'économie quand il y en a besoin. Et effectivement, ce fonds de compétitivité devra également avoir ces flexibilités qui nous permettent à la Commission de pouvoir réagir en temps et en heure en temps de crise. Pour ce qui est tous les domaines de compétitivité, je laisserai évidemment la commissaire Ribera, dont c'est le portefeuille, y aller, mais évidemment ce qu'a dit la présidente est totalement juste, puisque nous serons pragmatiques également dans les révisions de la doctrine de compétitivité. Mais évidemment, les annonces interviendront bientôt, et je laisserai évidemment ma collègue en tout cas vous rendre compte.
Thank you. And we stay in the middle. Jorge, please.
Good afternoon, Jorge Valero with Bloomberg here. Two questions, please, as well, Madam President. First, you are going to embark on a massive simplification. Some will say even deregulation. The Commissioner Vice President just spoke about shock therapy. Is this also an admission of the possible misjudgment about the benefits of leading the transition, thinking that others will follow our regulatory push, and instead what we're doing is paying the cost of the transition? And secondly, you've been trying to schedule a visit to the US. As far as we know, contacts with the Trump circle have been difficult. They've been difficult to reach. Is this a worrying signal about what is about to come in the relationship with the President Trump? And if you would consider, or are you considering to smooth the relation and unilateral extension of the suspension of the European tariffs that are going to expire in March? Thank you.
So, as you know, I had a phone call with the President-elect right after his election. The teams are in contact. This is the usual way, so that after now the President is in office, sooner or later there will be a visit and intensification of the contact without any question. What the transition is concerned, So, first of all, climate change is a reality. And we see in these days that it destroys wealth all across the globe. There are many, many good reasons to fight climate change, to protect nature, to work on a circular economy. And I want to re-emphasize that Europe is staying the course, absolutely necessary. We're staying the course on the objectives of the European Green Deal and the goals that we have. To remind you, the goal of climate neutrality by 2050 and minus 55% at least by 2030. This transition has never been done before. So we also have to be on our way forward, flexible and pragmatic. As new elements occur, we have to be able to adapt. We have to also be able to say, okay, this was not enough. We have to do it in a different way. Or this was too much, for example, on micromanagement. I think that the right incentives for market-driven transition are so important for technology neutrality that we need. If we take the emission trading system, it's the perfect system to be a market-driven, technology-neutral approach that says if you want to pollute, you pay for it. If you don't want to pay, you innovate. The way you do it, it's up to you because you are the expert on it. So, again, we stay the course. The goals are cast in stone that we have by 2050. It's absolutely vital and necessary for us to do that. But on the way forward, in a very complex transition, we will have many new insights also. We have to be adaptable, capable to adapt. We have to be flexible and we have to be pragmatic. Perhaps what the European Green Deal objectives and the transition is concerned, if you look at the three main pillars, they all pay into that. Innovation. I mean, it's at the core of this transition, the innovation. The second element, a joint roadmap for decarbonisation and competitiveness. This is the growth strategy we're working on. And the third element, if you look at reducing dependencies, it's mostly about access, for example, to critical raw materials. And where do we need the critical raw materials? We need them in the clean technologies. We also need them in the digital technologies like semiconductors. But the clean technologies are absolutely vitally necessary to have the critical raw materials. The same goes for renewable energy. Homegrown here, we work hard on it, but we also will develop together renewable energy with, for example, our friends on the African continent. So all three pillars pay into the objective of the European Green Deal. Simplification. I mean, look at how complex, partially contradictory, the requirements sometimes are. And simplification is also something which pays into the objectives of the European Green Deal because we have to speed up. The more complex, the slower you are. The more pragmatic, simple you are, the faster you can be. Of course, permitting plays a role too. But this all is very clear for us. We stay the course.
Thank you. And we stay still here in the center. The colleague behind the monitor. Yes, you.
Thanks. Christian Anner with Ernst Europe. I have a question for President von der Leyen. You mentioned at the start of your intervention the Europe's advantage of a stable legal environment. But doesn't some of these planned proposals undermine that? In particular, the proposal to amend some of the recently adopted Green Deal legislation.
Again, I have to get this question. I did not get the question.
Oh,
yeah.
So, as you mentioned at the beginning, you pointed to the advantages of a stable legal environment in Europe. But doesn't some of these planned proposals undermine that? In particular, changing the legislative initiatives under the Green Deal?
No, not at all. On the contrary, as I said, we stay the course. The goals stay. The objective stays. But we want to reach it better and faster. And for that, we have to reduce complexity. Speak to companies. They say, yes, we want to stick to this goal. The automotive industry, tomorrow I will work with, very clear is the modernization, the software-driven mobility, the electrification of the automotive industry. It's very clear that these are the markets of the future. But to get there, let us be less complex, less complicated and faster. And this is the objective.
Oui, il y a peut-être un écueil sur lequel il faut toujours lutter en politique, c'est que le chemin pour y arriver ne devienne pas l'objectif. Et nous sommes fixés des objectifs sur le Green Deal. Ces objectifs demeurent. Ils demeureront. Ils ont été confirmés. Ils font partie d'ailleurs de l'équilibre politique, mais aussi de la stratégie économique de l'Union européenne. Et le chemin, nous pouvons l'adapter. Mais il faut faire attention à ce que le chemin ne devienne pas l'objectif. Et donc, nous adapterons ce chemin avec pragmatisme et justement pour avoir des business plans qui sont capables d'absorber à la fois des marges pour les entreprises et puis une croissance économique telle qu'on la veut.
Thank you. Yes, here, Manik.
Thanks a lot, Mark Majewski, German press agency, DPA. Right here behind the screen. Thanks. Madam President, you stated that the importance of the European car industry, and you seem eager to help it, but how do you explain that your Commission was unable to prevent major European car makers from taking legal actions against your tariff decisions on BEVs from China? Is this a good start for your dialogue with this, which is starting tomorrow? And if I may add, what outcome do you expect from this dialogue? Thank you.
We created this dialogue because the transition is so complex. So not only the topic of overcapacity of Chinese vehicles that are sold below production costs on the European market is a topic, but also the different legal frameworks that we are moving in, the electrification, the infrastructure, the skills topic, very complex. And if you listen to the different car producers all over Europe, you have very different views on it. So there too, the objective is clear, the modernization of the fleet, and we know what the future markets are. Now we discuss together what you need to reach that goal, to go to these markets that have software-driven mobility. What you need, and how can we together move forward on that way? So this shows this is very complex, and therefore, again, we want to stick to the objective. This is very important for us, but we can smoothen the way forward, and we can enable the industries to modernize and to innovate.
Thank you. And now we move here to our right. Yes, please.
Oui, bonjour, une question en français. Jade Grandin de l'Éprevier, journaliste à l'Opinion. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez aux entreprises qui ont déjà commencé à appliquer la réglementation sur le Sustainable Reporting et qui considèrent que si on la détricote trop, ça va réduire leur compétitivité parce qu'aujourd'hui elles font plus d'efforts environnementaux que leurs concurrentes et si on simplifie trop cette réglementation, on va pénaliser les bons élèves et avantager les mauvais élèves en termes d'environnement. Merci.
We have a very close look on, without any question, so we will include it in our work on the omnibus. But let's discuss the omnibus when it's on the table, because otherwise it's just a hypothetical discussion.
Thank you. And here again, Alice.
Hello, Alice Hancock, Financial Times. It was a short follow-up to my colleague's question about the strategic dialogue and the competitiveness of the car industry. Obviously, one of the key issues is the fines for the 2025 standards. Can you guarantee that European car makers will not have to pay those fines to Brussels for missing the standards? And would they then perhaps be recycled into research and innovation? Thank you.
So here too plays a role, of course, that there needs to be fairness in the system, because some have invested already and are successful in fulfilling the goals, but also the amount of necessary flexibility and pragmatism that we need to solve this complex issue. And therefore, this is an issue that you should not only look at it in singularity, but we look at it in a package that we have on the table. That is the goal of the automotive, the dialogue of the future of the automotive industry in Europe. Very important is also here speed, because of course certain expectations have to be met, or uncertainties have to be excluded, and therefore it's more a matter of weeks than months we're talking about. We will have, perhaps for your information at the end, an action plan on the automotive industry and mobility, presented by Commissioner Tzitzikostas, where we have then the results.
Good. And still here on my right.
Hi, Aude van den Hove from Politico. I have a question for the President. You talk about unity and the fact that member states have to play their role. Have you considered what actions you will take if a country is not following or not taking part, doing their part?
Yeah, so of course there is often the situation that we have diverse opinions on topics. For me, it was really an eye-opener to see with the Budapest Declaration at our European Council, informal council in Budapest, how united the leaders are on the diagnosis, if I may put it that way, but also on the measures that were proposed in the Draghi report and that are translated in this Competitiveness Compass. This is a very good starting point, because typically we start with divergent opinions. Of course, in the detail, there will be opposing or divergent opinions on the detail. But, I mean, okay, that's the daily life we have to work on. But the pressure of the knowledge, how high the urgency is, and that we have a good plan, and that there's now the political will, in my view, really help us to move forward quickly and united on that one. The Polish presidency is now very much on it, and afterwards we have the Danish presidency, so it's really a time to speed up.
Thank you. And we move again here to the lady. Yes, please.
Bonjour, Léa Marchal de l'Agence Europe. À quel point doit-on s'attendre à des textes de législation dans les prochains mois, à commencer par le Clean Industrial Deal, et ensuite je vois aussi le Decarbonisation Accelerator Act, qui me fait beaucoup penser au Net Zero Industry Act. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire de différent dans tous ces textes, et y compris tous les autres actes qui sont mentionnés dans la boussole pour la compétitivité dans les prochains mois?
Je l'ai dit, il y avait un changement d'abord d'état d'esprit, il y a un changement également de méthode, puisque je vois bien derrière votre question si ce sont aussi des textes législatifs qui recréent de la norme ou pas. J'ai mentionné dans mon intervention liminaire que nous allons les concevoir comme des business acts, et donc avec la volonté de pouvoir simplifier les procédures, d'organiser le soutien financier, d'organiser également l'écosystème économique avec les entreprises, et dans un souci de concertation, on va travailler dans un premier temps avec l'ensemble des secteurs, d'où le dialogue sur l'automobile, le dialogue avec l'industrie de l'acier, le dialogue également avec les biotech et les cleantech pour savoir exactement quelles sont les flexibilités technologiques qu'elles ont besoin pour pouvoir développer leurs nouvelles technologies, les ruptures de technologie qui sont nécessaires dans notre économie, et comment on les accompagne. Donc, il ne s'agit pas de réglementation, mais d'accompagnement de tous ces secteurs. Et donc, retenez en tout cas que ces business acts par secteur seront concertés avec les secteurs en question et porteront nos objectifs et notre modèle européen qu'on défend également. Donc, encore une fois, les objectifs sont maintenus, la méthode est co-construite, et elle doit normalement pousser la compétitivité, trouver des business cases dans tous les facteurs de production et des marges pour les entreprises dans ces nouveaux secteurs, notamment dans les nouvelles technologies que vous évoquiez.
Yeah. I want to emphasize that one. So the Net Zero Industry Act was very much focused on clean tech, and it was successful. So now we widen the scope. after the clean transition dialogues we had with the different sectors. So it's a wider approach of something which we saw was successful.
Thank you. And I'll take one online. So we have Edith Hancock from Wall Street Journal.
Hi, thanks for taking this. I guess my question is for the Commission President as well. It's about the cutting of the red tape by 25% figure, and I feel like this is something that's come up a few times over the last year or so. You mentioned during your speech that you would hope by the end of the mandate that you would have proposals that would signify a cost-cutting exercise of about 70 billion euros annually for companies. But those proposals, they'd have to go through the EU legislative process, which, is famously streamlined. So I guess my question is, how soon do you anticipate European businesses to benefit from that policy initiative?
Yes, of course, the rules of the game. The rules are that we propose something, but of course we accompany in Council and in Parliament the development of a law. And I spoke already about the European Council, very clear mindset on that one. The Council itself and the Parliament have understood that we need really to liberate the innovative power that our European economy has, and therefore to be more simple and to be faster and less complex. Therefore, I hope for the best, but we will also work intensively with Parliament and Council on keeping the high ambition that is in the Commission's proposal.
Thank you. And we take a final one, because it's been already almost an hour. We'll take the lady here in the middle. Sorry. No, I wasn't seeing well. Can you put your hand? Yes, you please.
Hello, thank you. Léolite Wood for Context. I had a question regarding what you said about 1 in, 27 out. One of the examples that you mentioned for that was the 28th regime. That's an example of harmonization, but I think in the document you mentioned corporate law, insolvency, taxation policy, which are notoriously areas in which it's difficult to propose harmonization. So I'm wondering, how do you expect to propose that? Will it be a regulation? How will you manage to bypass or circumvent what the European Court of Justice said regarding the minimum wage directive? And don't you think that there may be other areas of harmonization that may be easier to cut red tape and to do this 1 in, 27 out?
It's a double approach. I must say we should not neglect the fact that we have to work intensively on the single market of 27 and reduce the barriers, or you can also call it harmonize stronger, because there are lots of harmonizing laws that have not been implemented by the member states, and therefore we have the barriers to the single market. Besides that, as you've touched upon, the proposal of the 28th regime, it will not be trivial. There are some laws mentioned as just exemplary. Of course, it's going to be wider. It will come towards the end of the year, and we will have to work in a way that we really see that we can move it forward. I know that, for example, taxation is unanimity, and others are qualified majority voting. But, the need for everybody here in the European Union to see our successful startups to be able to scale up and therefore have an added value and really get the market access they deserve. This is in every member state the case, so it's in the interest also of all of us that we are successful with it. But ask me on that one again when it is on the table.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your big interest and participation. And thank you, President von der Leyen, Executive Vice President Séjourné, and we are happy to continue with the technical briefing and our colleagues. Wish you a good afternoon.